When I started with the whole my mediumship journey, I would say to spirit, if this is really real, can you show me a feather? Have a box here, okay? It's filled with like those big feathers I show you, like those feathers. I have like 20 of them, okay? They're all like, can you please send me this? And they would do it. They would send me feathers every time.
Welcome to the Spirits Beside Us podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lippincott. I'm an ex-Wall Street analyst turned international medium, spiritual teacher, and best-selling author. Each week we'll dive into the fascinating and uplifting arena of the non-physical world to help you deepen your understanding and spiritual connection to the unseen realm. We'll also share a behind-the-scenes look with others who've done the same and speak with experts in the field about their experiences. Pull up a seat and let's dive into these perspective-changing conversations. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to another episode of Spirits Beside Us. I'm so glad to have you with us again. And today I've got a wonderful guest. Her name is Lisa Stamper, and she is a psychic medium out of Ireland. And one of the great things that she's got is a wonderful background from the UK and from so many different tutors, not to mention the Arthur Findlay College. So she and I have a lot in common with especially Tony Sockwell. But she's studied with some of the best spiritual and mediumship teachers in the world, and she's taken so many courses just from the Arthur Findlay College, plus all the years of her experience and her background. So I just can't wait to dive into this and ask her a whole bunch of questions. So Lisa, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak and to share. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, great. And so am I. So one of the things I'm always, curious to know is, you had sort of an experience with your dad, I believe, back in 2017, where he passed on. Was that the catalyst for you to go down this mediumship journey, or had you already been connecting with spirit? What was your sort of background like? How did you go down this road?
Yes. Well, definitely the passing of my dad was the catalyst to go into mediumship in a way that I haven't done it before. I've always been interested in spirit. I've always was really curious about what happens after we die. Even as a child, I would, ask questions, and I always knew that this is not it. Okay. There's just inner knowing. I was like, there is something more out there. I know it. It's almost like, but I just couldn't put words to it. I didn't understand what it was. Yeah. So as a child, I would go to cemeteries and actually try to spy to see if I would see anybody who has passed, right? But I've never found anybody. I've never had any paranormal experiences as a kid that I recall. So, but the interest was always there. And I did a Reiki attunement 2003 or 4. And that very much opened up a lot of my clairs. But back then I was really young. I was 22, 23. And I didn't really have the guidance on what happened. And so I just, read books from the library back then. Okay. So I didn't have
back when they actually had books.
Yes, exactly. But what I found was very scary to me. It didn't make any sense. It was like, so when you pass on to the spirit world, there's different worlds and you can be stuck in one world. And I was like, oh my God, this cannot be it. It was really scary. So I packed away the books, and just stuck to meditation and And I've always been interested in tarot and oracle cards. I mean, I think I started to read cards when I was probably about 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've always had the interest in, esoteric stuff. It was always there.
So did it start with tarot cards as sort of your doorway, your entrance to sort of say, well, there's something here, and you had your interest with spirits, but then perhaps there's that connection with the tarot cards that come in. You're like, wait a second, they're starting to tell me things.
Yes, I mean, but back then I didn't know. You see, so when I did the cards, I would use it as face value as it was in the book.
Yes.
I would go into the book, okay? I was like, this is what that means. But to my surprise, a lot of times it was right, okay? But there was still this distance, right? I knew there was more to it, but I didn't really know how to access this. I didn't access the information, or I didn't realize, okay, back then it had all to do with my intuition and with my own, knowing and energy, and with my clairs. I didn't know. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So that just came later on. That was after my dad passed, when I really dove into it, and I got like an education on how it all works.
So fast forward to your father passing.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it with your father passing that suddenly basically reopened the portal, and you're like, wow, this has happened? Did you have a spiritual awakening at that point? Was that, what happened?
Well, the passing of my father was really traumatic. He had a freak accident that he didn't survive. And it was just, some of the stuff that was happening, right? When my sister called me, okay, and because she was trying to let me know what happened to my dad, because she got the phone call, and as soon as she opened her mouth, okay, I felt what happened to my dad, and I was like, what is happening? So it was like, I couldn't explain it. It was really weird. And we packed our stuff and we flew to the States, and in the hospital, it was like a deja vu. It was really unexplainable. I was like, it just felt so surreal. Yeah. And after his passing and everything, somebody suggested to check out this Switzer medium. And I did. And he was also apparently trained at Stansted at the Arthur Findlay College. So he had a very non-fear-based approach, okay? A very approach that made sense to me, at least, to mediumship. And I was like, that's just it? That's how it works? I was like, this cannot be true. I was like, I bet this guy, like, this is way too easy, and he just talked about it, like it was the normalest thing in the world. So I booked the weekend shop on how to communicate with your loved one, and did an exercise, and I felt the presence of my dad so strongly. It was so overwhelming. I didn't know what to do with myself. It's like, oh my goodness, like, this is really him. He's here. I can feel him. I can, it feels like he's hugging me. I didn't know, it was incredible experience. And over the weekend, I had the opportunity to give my very first, mediumship contact in a practice setting. And the lady that came through was a mom for one of the other participants there. And I just couldn't believe that this lady that I saw in my mind, that she knew that person, it was absolutely incredible. And it was fascinating how I saw that lady too. She was doing this with her arms like rolling. I was like, this lady is doing this. I don't know what this means. And the participant, she says, oh my God, this is my mom. She was in a wheelchair. So it was like, oh, what? And that was it for me. I was like, where can I learn this? So I started my journey in Frankfurt with one of his students. And then I went to Arthur Findlay College.
Wow, that's amazing. It's so you really with you it sounds like it began with almost like an immersion. First, your father, just because you were at a workshop and you experienced his love, his
Yeah.
embrace, the knowingness that he's there with you. This is
Yeah.
far beyond anything that you would otherwise experience. And then you had the
Yes.
second experience of giving this reading to this woman where she's, the mother's coming through, giving all of this information, and
Yeah.
it's just coming out, and you're like, it's right? What? Wait a second. All this information is right? How can that be? I know nothing about her. So at that point, you're just like, okay, sign me up. I have my draft notice. I'm moving forward.
Yeah, something like that, something like that. But little did I know, I mean, it is mediumship is not straightforward, which is still to this day, I'm not gonna lie. It is, it's challenging. It really is, and it continues to be challenging,
Always. Yeah.
So
That's one of the things that I've always noticed is that in the beginning, it feels like it's just so simple, so straightforward, and it feels like it's just a gusher of information. You're like, oh yeah, this is perfectly natural. I can't believe I'm getting all this information. And then something happens, our minds get involved, and we're like, okay, now I got to follow the structure. Yeah. What happened? Why isn't it as simple as it used to be?
Yes. Yes, exactly. I mean, it starts, when you start practicing at the beginning, when you do psychic work, when you start, you're reading the energy of other people, I remember one of the very first sensitive exercises we were instructed to do, and my teacher back then said, "So Lisa, how did that feel for you? Did you feel anything?" I was like, "No, I didn't feel anything." And I was like, "What the fudge is happening? I don't feel anything." But that triggered also, I think for me at least, the whole mediumship journey is like a huge healing journey for me, because I mean, constantly confronted with, with like my own personal issues, with family dynamics, it like all starts to break, and it's almost like you're forced to look at it, because if you don't look at it, you can't move on.
Right.
Right. You can't move on. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and one thing I know I've always been taught, I don't know if I've actually ever practiced it as much as perhaps I should have, but to your point, it's, for us to get that progression forward, we've got to sort of clear house and clean house and get all that gunk that is sitting buried in the dark somewhere. We've got to clear that out in order for our minds to be more clear, more clean, cleaner vessels for spirit to use.
Exactly. But then on the
go ahead.
So then on the other side, if you have that, we're all broken vessels, and I know one of the tutors at the Alpha Finley College uses that example, that metaphor a lot. We're all broken vessels, and the more broken we are, the more light can shine through. But we have to, clean it out.
Exactly. Well, I mean, at this point, one of the things that's really important is that so many people understand that we're broken vessels, but I think one of the things I also have come to learn is that the more broken we are, the better the vessel would become, because we've learned all the pain and the experience that spirit can use as a result. They're saying, okay, well, now you've got all this pain and experience. Now you're something that we can actually use with that to pass that message across.
Yes, exactly.
It's kind of like the analogy I use sometimes. A great defense attorney was first a great prosecutor. The defense has to learn how to be the prosecutor first, or a doctor has to learn how to heal something if they've actually gone through the pain themselves.
Yes,
same with the medium. How do they know to bring through these experiences? Because they've gone through the same broken experiences themselves.
Exactly. And I didn't realize, how much courage it involved actually, and it confronted me with my biggest fear, like speaking to people. Okay, like I'm like an introverted extrovert, and I just have this big. I've always had this big fear of like connecting with people and speaking with people, But being a medium, you connect with people and you have to speak with people,
Yeah.
So it's quite a journey for me.
Well, yeah,
It
I
has
bet
been.
I'm guessing it's really kind of not only force you out of your shell, but it's as spirit is bringing through its healing energy to the recipient, you're
Yeah.
getting that residual healing as well.
Yes. Yes.
That's one thing
Yes,
I've always felt
absolutely.
is that it's because we're the vessel, because we're the instrument, if you will,
Hmm.
whatever goes through us, we get a little bit of the residual energy that is left over. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, I'll take a little bit of your healing energy. Thank you very much. I'll take whatever you can
Yes.
give me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the lovely thing about mediumship readings, right? If you do, I mean, for me, it is like that. When you do the mediumship reading, I always feel super great afterwards.
Yeah,
I feel like you got a charge from it, you know?
totally.
And that's something, it's like the sugar, that you keep going back to get more of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's like going back to dark chocolate, just one more piece.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'll have another one. Yes.
Yeah, by that point, I'd be like 280 pounds or something. Just God help me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It's like to your point, spirit obviously is exceedingly high vibration, exceedingly high energy. So when we're
Yeah.
really blended well with spirit, and we're really blended, so closely, they're giving us that energy. We're feeling that energy. We're becoming partly them. We're stepping into their shoes, as it were. So
Yes.
our vibration just shoots right up. And there'll be times where I'll be giving a reading, and I am profusely sweating because they've ramped up and amped up my energy, and I'll
Yeah.
be talking like my hands will be waving in the air, and I'll be talking 1,000 miles a minute, and at the end I was like, wow, that was intense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because some people ask me, well, don't you feel like really drained? I'm like, on the contrary, I feel like I've just been, put my finger in the
Upgraded.
socket, and I'm added a
Yes.
couple of hundred amps right to me.
Yes. Yes,
Wow.
that's how I feel as well. And that's the difference, right, between the psychic readings and the mediumship readings,
Yeah.
I feel, right? Because in the psychic readings it can get, and sometimes it can get a little bit it's not as uplifting sometimes for my energy when I do psychic readings
Mhm.
as it is for mediumship readings.
Right. Well, that's a valid point, because with a psychic reading, you're reading the energy of the person across the
Yeah,
table, the human,
exactly.
the other human. So the other human has the same vibration that you do. So
Yeah.
you're not getting that intense high vibration energy from spirit. So it's a
Yeah.
very you'll feel the different. It's not low vibration, but it's not uplifting vibration.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But equally, there I like doing psychic work as well. I find it
Mm.
absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. It was so
Just
so. Describe some of the things that you do with your psychic work. Is it just you're helping people with their lives? How do you work
it
with your
always
your psychic work?
Yeah, well, it always depends on the individual, right? Because I feel every psychic reading is different, and I love, to approach the psychic readings. I'm also open for spirit to come in also, so I don't only do strict psychic
Right.
readings unless somebody wants like just a card reading. Okay, I'll just do the card reading. That's fine. But if somebody would book a psychic reading, a soul reading, I'm always, open both channels
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's the best readings are when you're open to the eclectic energy, where you can get the information from. Because so it could like start with a past life reading, but then it goes into like your grandmother is coming through, and then maybe a pet is coming through as well. And with the psychic, depending on what is going on in your life at this moment, it can be various things. But my intention is always to empower. Okay. I don't want, people continuing coming back for more and more and more readings. That's not the intention of that. Okay. So I want to empower people, so they can step in their own power and feel confident in themselves, and somebody would maybe schedule a psychic reading if you would need clarity, need a different like objective view on a situation, so you can see where something is coming from or whatever the case is. But it's very individualized, and I'm really open for all of it. Those are the best readings, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that you bring up. It's you've got to give the recipient the ability to move on with their lives, as opposed to having the recipient become dependent on that information and going back again and again and again. They've got to learn to live with their own lives. And in fact, you sort of notice there's some people who are dependent on those kind of readings, whether it's a psychic reading or a mediumship reading, and you begin to realize that they're the people who actually need a therapist. You're like,
yes, exactly.
They come back to you that many times, like, listen, I love to help you, but I think you'd be better suited. You'd be more helped, with a therapist who can, see you more frequently.
Exactly.
There are probably more problems that you might like to resolve.
Yes, exactly. And I know it from my own experience when I was younger. I would I would call the psychic hotline, right? And I would ask for advice in my younger years, for sure. I always did that. And looking back now, I kind of see how insecure I was, and reaching out of insecurity, but I would not get to empowerment. I would be like, yes, do this or do this or do this, but I was actually giving my power away, and that's not the point, So I'm really, making sure that does never happen, because I experienced it that way, Yeah, so I'm very vigilant about that.
Yeah, that's a classic example of now you've had the experience. Now you're on the other side of that experience, and you're able to learn from it and give as a result of what you've learned. So it's just another point of saying, okay, you've gone through it, you've had the experience, you've learned, and now because you've learned, you're that vessel to give something that's even better.
Yes, exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
So have you also been in contact with, do you connect with angels or other people as well? Because I know there's some mediums out there who do communicate with angels or have special connections with them. Some mediums don't. So I was just curious, do you have that connection as well? You do? Okay.
Yes,
good.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm open. I'm really open for any, energy to come through, angels, spirit guides, celestial beings. I haven't had too many celestial beings coming through, but I did have angels, like guardian angels, come through. Or when I connect with people, you can just feel, it's like, oh, there's this angelic presence, really with that person right now. And then it usually, turns out that they're really connected to angels, or there's something really big happening in their life at the moment.
What is it in your mind that when you're connecting to, let's say, an angel versus a person in spirit who's crossed over, what do you feel is the most significant difference? Would you say it's just the incredibly high energy that is so much higher than a person in spirit, even higher than that?
I wouldn't say it necessarily higher, you know what I mean? But I feel there's a difference in their presence and how they show up. Okay, so an angel, I get it as a lot clearer for me, and a lot more fine-tuned and very, very powerful. As for Well, but now I'm like, no, some people who have passed in spirit, they're also very powerful, very,
Can
very
be. That was
present.
their
Yes.
personality. And that's the way they come through.
Yes, exactly. So, I know. I say I really, really know. I really know when they come through.
It's
It's just
just
a
that
knowing.
powerful.
Yeah,
Interesting.
absolutely.
Interesting. Good. And now you also do trance mediumship as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So perhaps
Experience.
talk about trance mediumship. How did you begin down that road? Was it something that one of your teachers said this would help you out, or you had already had experiences? How did that evolve?
Well, when I did my first like basic course into mediumship, trance healing was part of that. But I really got into trance, and before I did Reiki, you know, like when I first started. But I saw a post on Facebook that somebody was starting a new trance class. Okay, and I was like, oh, I got to sign up for this. And I did. And I signed up so fast for this, Chris. I was, after I, signed up, I was like, oh, I don't even know who this person is. Okay. And then I'm a Virgo rising. So my Virgo mind is like, you don't even know who this is. Maybe you don't like their voice. Like, why did you do that? That was completely, irresponsible here. But I heard this lady's voice in my head, okay, saying, don't worry, dear, it's just gonna be fine, okay? And it was. And I did the trance class, and it was absolutely fantastic experience. And I sat in her trance circles for like, I think about 2.5 years.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
you've now been, connecting with guides through trance. What have you been learning, experiencing, growing? How have you felt that trance is different for you as the messages are coming through versus the messages that are coming through from, loved ones in spirit or angels?
I feel with the trance healings that I do, the messages are, I feel there's a closer connection to the person and to spirit when I do trance healings. And then when there comes a message for the person, or when I ask like what exactly is happening here, like what can I share, like what's going on, where does the energy go, where is the energy needed, So I feel there's like a different the connection feels differently, for mediumship for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, can you describe for listeners what trance healing is and how that's different than Reiki, which is another form of energy healing?
Yeah. So for trance healing, I get into a meditative state. I connect with my guides, and I ask for healing for the client, for the sitter. And the energy goes through me to the sitter. And you can feel the energy go through your body. But it's similar, and the energy feels, depending on what is needed for the client, it can feel differently. For Reiki, how did that go with Reiki? I haven't done Reiki in forever. But for Reiki, it is, you imagine the light going up in your sacral chakra, then your crown chakra, and it goes through your hands, and you work with symbols.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be the universal life energy for Reiki.
Yeah. So it feels, I guess, more like you're connecting with your guides, and the guides are sending the energy through you in a similar way to Reiki, but more that you're connecting to your guides as opposed to sort of a universal light, universal energy that's you're not manipulating, but working with based on the symbols from Reiki.
Yeah. Sort of, yeah. I mean, it's the same intention, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we work with that,
Sure,
it's the same intention for sure.
Yeah.
I guess for trance healing, you don't need to be attuned and Reiki 1, 2, or master. You
Yeah.
will just do the trance healing. So I feel with the trance healing, there's like no hierarchy and levels, right?
Yeah.
I guess there would be just the amount that you would be sitting with your guides and doing the healing for, I don't know, 2 weeks, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right?
Yeah, and from what I recall, doing a little trance healing myself, it's one of the things is that I've noticed is the more you step back and try not to do anything,
Yeah,
the more
more happens.
effective it is, because you're literally just there purely as the instrument, purely as the vehicle. You're not even involved. You're just like, okay, use me. I'm just a body.
Yes, exactly.
As opposed to mediumship, where yes, we are the vessel, yes, we are the instrument, but we're verbally passing on what we understand, what we know, what we are experiencing in the moment. Yeah. There is participation still, whereas in trance healing, in trance as well, there's the more you can step aside, the better.
Yeah,
because then you just let spirit do the work.
Yes, exactly. So I haven't have a lot of experience with trance speaking. I haven't done that.
Yeah,
a few times
can be absolutely mind blowing, but
it's fascinating.
So I have to kind of look back and look at the recordings and go, "That was said? Wow."
Yes. Do you do trance speakings?
Yeah, I do. I do trance, and now also starting to get involved with physical mediumship as well. So it just keeps on evolving. It just keeps on adding, and so it's
fascinating.
More. So spirit just keeps on opening more doors. I'm like, okay, I guess I've got to walk through that one too.
Yes, absolutely. Have you had any cool experiences with the physical mediumship?
It's with one physical mediumship. We've been in a circle practicing, and one of the participants who was just sitting for that week there, we're on what was it, Zoom. We're on Zoom, and she's sitting, and she gets into such a deep trance that spirit starts working with her, and it's happened to a number of different people. And you start to see spirit build a mask over the face. It starts often around the nose or mouth, and it starts to build up to the top of the head. And quite often the masks remind me of Phantom of the Opera. If you remember Phantom of the Opera, that mask, it looks just like that, only a little bit paler. There was one time, and of course we're always snapping photos just for posterity. And there was one photo I took where the mask literally had a grid on it. And if you turn the photo sideways, you realize that grid was composed of numbers on different lines.
Wow.
So I'm like, holy smokes, this grid is a number grid. That's how they're working with the mask on the face, and you'd see different faces appear, sometimes in the neck, sometimes a spirit eye would open up. Sometimes just yesterday we were in a physical circle, and the medium had a trumpet in the back of her room. And the trumpet slid across from one side of the table to the other.
Oh, wow. That's
gosh,
wild.
People are seeing this. So that's great. So physical mediumship. And there were times where we're also trying in one of the other physical mediumship circles that I do. We're working with spirit to get them to speak, and it's interestingly enough, one of the members of the circle went into spirit And she was the one who had started the group to work with speaking. And now she's in spirit organizing it from the other side. And
Oh, wow.
we just keep on hearing more and more and more voices. It started out with a couple of things, but then it's increasing. And there was one time where we'll be asking questions and you'll be getting specific answers.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. And for here I am a medium, but I'm still have that tie to the skeptical side of the world because I came from the materialist side of the world. I'm still doubting Thomas, still there. So I'm like, it's like watching table tipping. Have you ever done table tipping?
Yes, I have. It's
like when you do table tipping and all of a sudden the table's moving and then spinning and then flipping around and there's nobody around because you've got one hand over the table, making sure there are no cables, there's nothing around. You're like, holy smokes, this is real.
Yes. It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
Yeah.
It's
so I mean, so that spirit can do some crazy things. I mean, this absolutely blows your mind.
Yeah, it does. It's just absolutely fascinating, and it just puts everything in a different light. Okay, like when we're here, in our 3D world, worrying about being late or whatever it is, the dailies, that we all have to think. Yes, exactly. And
here we are in the daily grind, but and our 3D reality, and we think this is everything that we know. We're kind of like the fish in the goldfish bowl, right? All we know is what's inside the goldfish bowl. We don't know what's outside the goldfish bowl.
No, we don't.
And now Spirit's coming along and tapping on the goldfish bowl and say, surprise, there's more outside that bowl.
I know. And they're giving you the proof too, right? Giving you proof and everything.
That's what you have to pinch yourself and go, this is just amazing. Because it's so easy to say that cannot be real because I'm not used to it. It's not part of my reality. It's not part of my experience. But then when you go through these experiences time after time after time, after a while, you're just like, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto.
No, we're not. Yeah. It's absolutely, I love it. When my grandma was still alive, I asked her, like, when you die, okay, you need to let me know, okay, if you're still here. And that was like before I did card readings. I was really young when I said that. It's like, you need to let me know whenever you die, okay? If there's any chance you can contact me, you need to promise and swear you're gonna do it. And yes, and hope below, when she passed, it was just a few years ago. The day she passed in a nursing home, I went to her house with my mom, and when we opened the door and I hit the light switch, the whole fuse blew. Like from the entire house, it went pew, and you could feel the electric go through the whole house, and just the electricity went out, like completely. And my mom and we were looking at me like, that was her. Yep, that was her. She's here. She didn't go.
Like, see, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep,
nope. Get rid of me that fast.
Nope.
Yeah, it's there's so many stories that people tell about something like that, and then it's so easy to say, but what about the other possibilities? It's so easy to come up with a naysay. What about this possibility? No, you're fantasizing. Well, after a while, that would mean that we're living in fantasy. I think the fact that we believe that the 3D is all there is, that's fantasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then at the end of the day, we all believe what we want to believe, right? And the belief is only true to us, okay? And we base it on our experiences that we have, right? But you could technically, Chris, say this is all BS, Okay. And I choose not to believe it. You could do that if you really wanted to. We could completely ignore, okay, that our loved ones are coming through, or that when we do trance healing, that we can feel the energy, that we can feel our guides, or you do with the physical circles, all the phenomena. You could choose, say, this is all not happening, and be, put your things on, right? So we don't see.
That's right.
Yeah, you put your blinders on. You could do that, and a lot of people do that. But I think, at some point, it's just, I guess, no, I believe it. This is true. And we're going to hold on to our truth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And strengthen that.
And I guess that raises the question, how much do we have to experience to start believing that something is real? Somebody's going all these experiences of spiritual phenomenon, and they're connecting with spirit in some way. At what point do they have to have X number of experiences to say, okay, I believe, okay, it's real? And or what theories do they have to know to help them bridge the gap from one belief to another belief?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. When I started with my mediumship journey, I would say to spirit, if this is really real, okay. I was walking my dogs in the field. When I walk through that field, can you show me a feather? I have a box here, okay. It's filled with like those big feathers I show you, like those feathers.
Big feathers.
I have like 20 of them, okay? They're all like, can you please send me this? And they would do it. They would send me feathers every time. But at some point, it's like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to send me feathers anymore. It's okay.
Yeah, I believe you. Or it's because I had something like that myself years ago when I was kind of slowly onboarding on this path. And I remember I was leaving my office, and I remember thinking, okay, spirit, if you're really there, can you give me a white feather, but it's got to have some pink in it, because there are no feathers with pink in it in this area. And they're like, this will never happen. Okay, I know. Lo and behold, I'm going out to the parking garage, and there's this big, pure white feather, half in pink.
Wow.
Like, oh, what?
See, you can't make it up. You really can't.
You can't. I'm like, what? I picked it up and I looked at it. I was like, this cannot be real. Or it's like the time there was this woman who she locked up her car. Her husband had died. She locked up her car, and she said, if you're real, I want you to put, I forget what the object was, like the ring or something material, solid.
Yeah.
I want you to put that ring somewhere that's not supposed to be. Well, she goes back to the car the next morning, and the ring is sitting on the dashboard.
Oh, wow.
It's like,
well, it just gives you the chills.
Talk about dematerialization and rematerialization. It's like, holy smokes. It's real.
Yes. That's crazy. It's crazy. How can you not, be a believer when something like that happens? But it does happen, that we like fall back into, doubting Thomas coming back.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
What am I even doing?
First to admit.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Or there's the other, there's another situation I know where another woman whose husband had died, she was having this experience, and was like, okay, well, I'm feeling my husband coming in and lots of things, but she just didn't believe. She's like, it's got to be my mind. I want to believe here, so it's got to be my mind. And there is somebody who, for some reason, was taking a video of this woman that, I don't know, an outdoor cocktail party or something, and they're just filming this woman. They were talking, And suddenly there's this red cardinal that lands on her shoulder and turns and stares at her. Just sits.
Oh, God.
I mean, I've never known any cardinal to sit on somebody's shoulder and stare at a person.
No, they usually don't do that.
No, they don't normally do that. So I saw that and I was like, what?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there are all kinds of stories like that. So
yeah.
So I mean, it's like, and the way spirit comes through, spirit's always coming through with such magnificent love, and that's what they're really always trying to share. Is they've been they've released, they've shed their body, they've shed their ego. It's now just their pure consciousness and their pure understanding of totality, and it's that bond of love that they're trying to share at the end of the day.
Yes, that's very
That's
true.
what comes through, and that's what's so beautiful and moving. And it brings me to tears when spirit passes on their messages like that. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, that's
Is
beautiful.
that what you experience? What's your, what's going on with you when you're giving messages to sitters?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's sometimes it's like some sort of explanation, so the sitter can understand like something about their passing better, so they get comfort, uplifting, very uplifting and very light. I there's just so much, that we can take ourselves to from the messages. It's so beautiful. Everybody could, everybody benefits from that, I think, and it's always healing and uplifting.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit something, an important aspect is that the messages that spirit brings through is always meant for multiple people, because it's not only meant for the sitter, but the number of times I resonate with the message that comes through myself, I'm like, that's also for me. And the same will be true in a platform reading, in a public demonstration, where I'll be giving a message to somebody and the message will resonate with like 10 different people in their specific situation. And they're like, well, yeah, that means exactly the same thing to me, but it's in different ways. So spirit, their intelligence is so expanded that they're actually connecting with multiple people at once.
Yeah, and it's just pure magic, I think, that this is even possible.
Well, here goes the Doubting Thomas again, back to quantum physics. It's like, quantum physics under the Copenhagen interpretation states that energy actually is never localized until another energy is acting upon it, like a thought energy. So that leads to another theorem stating that energy is in multiple places at once because it's never localized. Right. And that suddenly explains why spirits can be in multiple places, why spiritual or guides or angels can all be at multiple places doing multiple things at once, because they're energy and they're acting at multiple places at the same time.
Yes, exactly. And it's all in one realm, right? Where we're like all connected, where we're all interweaved and energetically connected. I believe we are energetically connected.
And that kind of, and that's the other thing. It's like our perspective is a linear perspective, where we see things on a plane. We think 3D. In fact, there's 5D, 6D, 7D, multiple dimensions all at once. And we know that, when we see something, we think it's in front of us or next to us or near us or at, in our reality. Yeah. But in fact, as we spoke in the very beginning, our reality is nothing. It's like time is warped. Reality is warped. So what we think we understand is that we don't really understand much of anything.
No, we're not. I mean, if you think, we just have like 2 pounds of, um, brain
Oh, the
fat
brain.
swabbling,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just, it's just a brain.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we
And
can't.
what was it? I think even Einstein's brain. Einstein used, the average human uses 2% or some
Yes.
percent of their brain, whereas Einstein, the most intelligent person to ever live, was using 5 to 10% of their brain.
Yep.
What's going on with the other 90% of the brain?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's just like the who's that? Was it Freud who said the conscious is visible, 10%, and the subconscious is like 90%.
Yeah.
It's like underwater. We're not aware of it.
Not even aware, but that's really where the magic happens. 'Cause to your point, the subconscious can actually absorb 40,000 pieces of information per second, whereas the conscious mind can only absorb, I think the number was 5 pieces of information per second. So
Yeah.
we're really ruled by our subconscious mind, and we don't even really understand that we're not even aware of that.
No, we're not. I think, yeah, I mean, the subconscious is all our experiences, right? Everything.
Our belief system, our
Yep.
beliefs about who we are, what we think we are, what we've come to learn we think we are. So if we, and that's the other thing. It's like the subconscious mind we can easily train. We put something in our subconscious mind, repeat it enough, it goes into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind will take it as fact. Because now we're getting out of spirit, but now it goes into the concept of athletes. Athletes will train themselves to the point where they can imagine themselves actually doing the sport, and they'll be on a physical, data retrieval, and the body thinks it's actually doing the activity as if it's really doing it.
Yes, exactly. That's programming, right? I mean, that would be programming.
That's all subconscious. That's the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
That's the power of the mind.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that you can also choose to believe, and some people choose not to believe.
Exactly.
That.
Well, you can put that into the subconscious mind.
Yes. Exactly.
That's something that is all about the power of the mind and the power of thought. In fact, that's one thing that Spirit keeps on talking about, even in their automatic writings. With the last 150 years that have come through different mediums, the one thing they keep on repeating is the power of thought is the strongest power in existence. And they keep on saying, if you only understood the power of your thought, you could create anything. We can create anything just through our thought. You can do the same, and it's no different. You just feel and believe that you cannot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it's but that's also part of the journey, right? I can speak only for myself, but I never believed very much in myself. I have a very low self-esteem, and it just came through my journey, especially the last few years with mediumship, where I really learned to overcome and start believing in myself. Okay, that you kind of, but it is a process. It doesn't happen from one day to another.
No.
You have to give yourself time and continue to believe, and because it's like a mediumship, right? It's three steps forward and then a step backward.
Oh, that is the part that is so frustrating. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. It's so true, and then you're like, the analogy I always use is it's like going to the gym. You'll work out and you'll have this massive progress in the very beginning, and then you plateau and you start going back down the other direction. You're like, wait, so why can't I do it? And then eventually you go back up to the other hill. But then you begin to slowly notice that the hills keep on getting higher and higher and higher, and you're going up higher hills.
Yeah, but it also builds you in strength. It kind of like serves as foundation, for eventually, for us to stand strong in our convictions, right? Yeah.
And then again with that analogy of the gym, sometimes I'll joke that we know that spirit is our best trainer. They're our best teachers, our best trainers. So I often joke that spirit is a masochist trainer in the gym, sadistic trainer, where they like to put us through the pain, where they boost us up to the top of that hill, and then they're going to change the routine on us, and we go right back down to the beginning.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, now you got to learn something new. You got to start all over again. You're like, no, I don't want to start something new. And that's when you feel like you've lost your abilities. You feel like you've lost your connection. You feel like you've lost the ability to bring through any kind of reading or connection. And you're like, I give up. And then lo and behold, the next reading you do blows you away. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's like, how dare I question myself, right?
Yeah. And you just have to pinch yourself, say, wow, okay, well, I guess I got through that valley. Now I'm going down the other side.
Yep, exactly. And it's continuous. I don't think we ever, stop learning or evolving and growing.
Ever.
In mediumship.
Yeah, Mavis Patilla, who I think, now she's in spirit, but Mavis Patilla said, I think she'd been practicing for probably 50 years. She always said that you're always adding new arrows into your quiver. You're always adding new talents. You never stop learning. And even she said that she kept on learning all the time, more and more and more, to the time that, she went into spirit. She'll probably still be learning when she's over there.
Yes, probably. Yeah, and she went through some stuff too. I read the book, Droplets of God. Is it called anything?
Yeah.
Yes. And it's fascinating, even, somebody, I never met her in person, but what I've heard and known, she was an incredible teacher and mentor to so many, and she struggled as well. She also had her doubts.
Absolutely.
At some point.
If anything, and that's actually how she began, because if you remember, she began her whole interaction with mediumship, if I got it right, through the fact that she became very sick.
Yeah, she
and
was
then
very
suddenly a guide or a spirit came to her and started talking to her and saying, you'll be okay, but you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Yes. And then she experienced the healing through a spiritual healer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that was, so she went through a lot, learned a lot, experienced a lot, but that really opened her up. And from that point on, she just kept on learning and growing, expanding.
Yeah.
She basically, gave herself to spirit, saying, okay, teach me, I'm open to learn. Yeah. And that's, I think, the critical aspect is that people have to be open to experience, open to learn, allow themselves to grow. Because it goes back to that famous saying, trust and surrender. Yes. You can't give what you're getting if you're not trusting what you're receiving, and you're not surrendering to spirit to allow spirit to give you what it needs to give you.
Yeah. And isn't that so funny though? I mean, it's ridiculous, because for me, I had so big trust issues, and yet, I'm going in the way where you have to surrender, where you have to trust. Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. That's I think, and that's also probably the biggest hurdle for almost I want to say all people, is that I think we all have some degree, some more, some less, but I think we all have some degree of trust issues. Well, if we didn't have trust issues, we wouldn't have an ego to worry about, because that's what the ego is here for. That's the barrier. So it's like we all have some degree of trust issues somewhere, somehow, for some reason. And we all don't really want to fully allow, because, again, the ego wants to control. So it's the ego is always in the way, both from the aspect of wanting to control, i.e. not allow, and not wanting to trust because it's afraid of being hurt. So it interferes with the trust aspect. So we have to learn to let our ego drop away. The more we let our ego drop away, the more we open ourselves to spirit and allow ourselves to get that much closer to spirit.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And we can use our ego as kind of guide as well. If the ego is like, no, you don't wanna, do that podcast, or you don't want to do that dem because, X, Y, and Z, you're gonna feel horrible. You're gonna be so afraid. It's gonna be like, oh yes, thank you, ego. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
That's the beautiful thing. If you can, you can actually use it as a signpost of do the opposite of what the ego is making you do.
Exactly.
If the ego is telling you, don't do that dem, or don't do that podcast, or don't do this, or don't do that, you're like, okay, that's a challenge. Maybe I should be doing that.
Exactly.
It's the concept of shorting whatever recommendation you get from ego.
Yes.
It's like, I'm not going to take that recommendation. Thank you very much. Sell.
Yes, exactly. Well, the ego just wants to protect sometimes, like wants to wants you not to be vulnerable so you can't get hurt.
Sure.
But in mediumship, especially demonstrations, I mean, you're gonna be you're gonna stand on a platform and you are vulnerable, and you have to trust that the information that you get, is gonna be received, and it's gonna be okay,
Right.
no matter the outcome.
Yeah. And then it goes back to that the old thing we were talking about before of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind remembers times, and so does the ego, times when we felt pain, or we experienced pain, or something, and so the ego immediately jumps up and tries to safeguard us and say, nope, don't want to do that, do you? Like, yes, I do.
Yes, exactly. You don't remember? Like,
right. Oh, I remember. You're making me remember.
Yes, exactly.
How can I forget?
Yes, exactly. That's too funny.
Well, great. What if you had one piece of advice that you were to give a listener at this point? What piece of advice do you think you'd give them, just in general, from spirit or things you've come to learn at this stage?
I think, yes, I would say believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't give your power away. Don't let other people tell you or dictate you what you should be doing or not should be doing. I feel it's really important, especially in the mediumship journey and in the spiritual community. Okay, everybody's unique, and we should all celebrate the uniqueness and stand in our own power, and shine our light together. And but a lot of people, say, you should be doing this, and you need to be doing this, and you have to do mediumship a certain way. Okay, I highly encourage everyone, okay, to do it their own way, and to do it the way spirit tells you to do it, and not another human. We're all just guides, right? We can all just be role models and guides, but at the end of the day, it's spirit who's going to work with you and through you, and that's how you should work.
That's great. That's wonderful. That's great advice. Can I sign up for your course, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you on, Lisa. Just love talking with you. It was great going over everything. How can people get in contact with you?
Oh, they can find me on Instagram, Lisa Stamper Medium, and my website is lisasheartspace.com.
Great.
That'd be
great.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and all my friends on the podcast listening to us today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and again, please like and subscribe, so that way you will always hear the next episode that gets recorded and dropped every Wednesday. And if you have any ideas of people that you'd like to hear from, or ideas that you'd like us to be talking about, by all means, write in, let us know. So this is Chris signing off for now, and I will see you next week. And until then, bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Spirits Beside Us. Make sure you head over to the show notes for all the links and information on this week's episode. You can check it out at spiritsbesideus.com. If you love this episode as much as I did, head over to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're looking for a community of spiritual seekers like yourself, make sure you join my Facebook page, Spirits Beside Us Podcast on Facebook. This is Chris signing off, sending you love and light. I can't wait to connect with you again on Wednesday.